SUV dealers have one job when you walk through that door. It's not to find you the best vehicle. It's to move the vehicle that makes them the most money. And those two things are almost never the same. Today I'm going to show you 7 SUVs that look like smart buys. They're popular, they're heavily advertised, some of them are genuinely nice to drive. But underneath the marketing, the numbers tell a very different story. We're talking about vehicles that will cost you more to repair than their competitors, lose more of your money every single year you own them, and in some cases, charge you a premium price for specs you can get elsewhere for tens of thousands of dollars less. And for every single one of them, I'm going to tell you exactly what to buy instead. Because knowing what to avoid is only half the equation. The other half is where your money actually belongs. Number 1 on this list is the one that surprises people the most. It's sitting in driveways all over America right now. It has one of the most recognizable nameplates in the industry. And according to 5-year depreciation data, buying it new is one of the single worst financial decisions in the SUV market. And if you're watching this, you're probably already skeptical of what dealers tell you. That's exactly who this channel is for. Hit like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Now let's get into it. At number 7, we have the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now let me be careful here, because the Grand Cherokee gets unfairly lumped in with the worst Jeep models, and that's not quite right. The older Grand Cherokee, pre-2021, had a decent reliability track record for what it was. But the current generation, which launched for 2022, is a different story. Consumer Reports rates the 2023 Grand Cherokee as less reliable than the average vehicle in its class. And this isn't just a survey opinion. The NHTSA recall list for the 2023 model alone sits at 21 separate recall campaigns. 21! That includes a steering knuckle defect on over 338,000 vehicles that could cause the driver to lose control entirely, and an airbag deployment failure on 2021 through 2024 models where the side airbags might not deploy in a side impact crash. From a repair standpoint, the Grand Cherokee runs about $666 per year in average maintenance, which sounds reasonable until you look at what's actually going wrong. Transmission issues have been a recurring problem across multiple recent model years. Suspension repairs on affected vehicles can run between $600 and nearly $3,000, depending on what's failed. And electrical system complaints are consistent enough that they show up as a pattern, not an outlier. Now add the price. You're starting at $40,000 for a base Grand Cherokee and climbing fast towards $65,000 in higher trims. At that price point, you are paying near luxury money for a vehicle that Consumer Reports, J.D. Power, and RepairPal all agree is sitting below average in reliability for its segment. What to get instead? The Honda Pilot or the Toyota 4Runner? The Pilot gives you 3 rows, a proven powertrain, and a reliability rating that consistently outranks the Grand Cherokee in every study that tracks it. The 4Runner is older platform technology, yes, but that's also why mechanics love it. Less complexity, more proven components, and resale value that embarrasses most of the vehicles on this list. Number 6 is a vehicle that's been completely redesigned, and that redesign is the problem. The Chevrolet Traverse. The previous generation Traverse had a reasonable reputation, nothing spectacular, but nothing alarming either. Then Chevrolet redesigned it for 2024, and Consumer Reports flagged it immediately. Their reliability data for the redesigned Traverse comes in below average, which is exactly what you'd expect from a first-year redesign that hasn't been sorted out yet. This is one of the most important rules in car buying that dealers will never tell you. Never buy the first model year of a redesign. The engineering is new, the manufacturing processes are still being dialed in, and the real-world problems haven't surfaced yet. You are paying full price to be the test case. At $38,000 to $55,000, the Traverse is priced as a family 3-row crossover. It competes directly with vehicles that have been refined over multiple years and have stronger reliability records. The Traverse simply doesn't justify that premium right now, not in year 2 of a redesign with a below-average reliability flag already attached to it. General Motors vehicles as a category tend to depreciate faster than Japanese competitors at the same price point. The Traverse follows that pattern. You'll pay Kia or Hyundai money to get in, but you won't get Kia or Hyundai resale value back out. What to get instead? The Kia Telluride. It's in the same price range, has won multiple awards for interior quality and value, carries stronger reliability scores, and holds its resale value better than almost anything else in the three-row midsize segment. It's the smarter allocation of that $40,000 plus. Number 5 is where we leave the mainstream market and step into a price range where the mistakes get significantly more expensive. At number 5, the Infiniti QX80. On paper, this looks like a smart play. You get a full-size luxury SUV with genuine presence, a well-appointed interior, and a starting price that's lower than a comparable Cadillac Escalade or Land Rover. Record-breaking sales in 2025 tell you plenty of buyers are reaching the same conclusion. Here's what those buyers are missing. The QX80 shares its platform with the Nissan Armada, a mainstream, truck-based SUV that starts around $60,000 less. You're paying a $20,000 plus luxury premium for a vehicle that is mechanically very closely related to its cheaper sibling. That's not necessarily fatal. Platform sharing is common in the industry, but it does raise the question of what exactly you're paying for. And then there's the depreciation. CarEdge forecasts the 2026 QX80 to lose 69% of its value over 5 years at average mileage. You're starting at $83,750. After 5 years, CarEdge projects a resale value of around $25,576. Let me say that again. You pay $83,750. You drive it for 5 years. You get $25,576 back. That's $58,000 in depreciation before you account for insurance, fuel, and maintenance. RepairPal ranks the overall Infiniti brand 16th out of 32 car brands for reliability. The QX80 specifically ranks first in its full-size luxury SUV segment, so relative to its direct competition, it's actually one of the better choices. But that segment is packed with vehicles that set a low bar. What to get instead? The Lexus GX or the Toyota Sequoia. The GX gives you genuine luxury build quality backed by Toyota's reliability infrastructure in a size that's more practical for most families, at a price that starts meaningfully lower. The Sequoia Hybrid offers full-size presence and a powertrain with a significantly cleaner reliability record than its non-hybrid sibling. Either one beats the QX80 on long-term value retention. Number 4 is a vehicle I want to be very precise about, because it's one of the most iconic nameplates in history, and the fans are not going to want to hear this. The Land Rover Defender. I want to acknowledge something up front. The Defender is a genuinely special vehicle. It looks unlike anything else on the road. It has off-road capability that most of its owners will never fully use, and the brand carries a heritage that goes back to 1948. None of that changes the financial reality. Land Rover as a brand has one of the worst reliability reputations in the industry, and it's not close. Consumer Reports has consistently ranked Jaguar Land Rover at or near the bottom of their brand reliability rankings year after year. The Defender, despite being a modern redesign launched for 2020, has not escaped this pattern. J.D. Power's depreciation forecast for the 2026 Defender reflects this. Poor marks across the board. The Range Rover, Defender's stablemate, loses an estimated 62.9% of its value over 5 years, according to IC Cars data. Even at a base Range Rover price of $115,000, that's over $72,000 in depreciation. The Defender starts lower, but follows the same brand trajectory. When Land Rover's resale values are so bad that IC Cars analysts describe them in the same sentence as Infiniti and Cadillac at the bottom of the depreciation rankings, that's a pattern, not an anomaly. Ask any independent mechanic what they think when a Land Rover pulls into their bay. The electrical systems are complex, proprietary, and expensive to diagnose. Parts availability outside of the dealer network is limited. Labor costs are above average, and the frequency of issues means that owners of these vehicles are not occasional visitors to the shop. What to get instead? The Toyota Land Cruiser if you want genuine off-road credibility with a reliability record that actually backs it up. The resale value on Land Cruisers is almost absurdly strong. Used examples often sell for close to what they cost new. If you want the Defender's character at a more forgiving price point, the Ford Bronco delivers serious off-road capability, a massive aftermarket support community, and ownership costs that won't require a dedicated savings account. Number 3 is the one that generates the most pushback in the comments every time someone covers it. Because the brand has done an exceptional job convincing buyers that its premium is justified, it isn't. At number 3, the BMW X5. BMW will tell you the X5 is the ultimate expression of the performance SUV. And in certain respects, they're right. It drives brilliantly, it's technologically loaded, and if you're the kind of person who uses sport mode on the way to work, you'll enjoy every mile. Here's what that enjoyment costs. BMW ranks consistently below average in long-term reliability studies. The X5 specifically carries above-average annual repair costs. CarEdge cites the X5 and X6M among the most expensive vehicles to maintain in the entire BMW lineup. We're talking oil changes that cost more than most cars' tune-ups, software issues that require dealer-only diagnostic tools, and a parts ecosystem where even routine replacements carry a premium that independent shops can't easily absorb. The X5 depreciates faster than its Japanese competition at the same price point. After 5 years, buyers who paid $70,000 plus for an X5 are looking at resale values that would make a Toyota product owner wince. You're losing money substantially faster per year than you would in a Lexus at a comparable price. And here's the comparison that really stings. The Genesis GV80, which starts around $57,000, matches the X5 interior for interior in quality assessments. It's been praised by automotive press for build quality that punches at Audi and BMW levels. It carries a stronger reliability rating. It offers a longer warranty, and it costs $10,000 to $15,000 less to get into. What to get instead? The Genesis GV80 is the most direct answer. Better value, comparable luxury, stronger reliability. The Lexus RX is the other option if you want a proven track record first and foremost. Neither drives quite like the X5 on a twisty road, I won't pretend otherwise, but both will cost you significantly less to own over 5 years and return more of your money when it's time to sell. Number 2 is a vehicle that's been America's status symbol for 3 decades. The name alone closes sales. And that's exactly the problem. The Cadillac Escalade. There is no SUV in America that sells on name alone more effectively than the Escalade. Dealers know it. Cadillac knows it, and the pricing reflects it. Edmunds estimates the 5-year total ownership cost of a base 2025 Escalade at $108,700. Of that, $54,287, roughly half, is pure depreciation. IC Cars data shows the Escalade loses 33.7% of its value in the first 3 years alone, worsening to over 71% at the 7-year mark. Here's the number that puts it all in perspective. The Chevrolet Tahoe, which shares the same GMT platform, the same basic drivetrain, the same fundamental architecture as the Escalade, has a 5-year ownership cost of $71,838, according to Edmunds. That's nearly $37,000 less. And the GMC Yukon Denali gives you most of the Escalade's premium interior appointments, a stronger reliability reputation, and a price tag that gives you actual margin to negotiate. What are you paying for with the Escalade that you're not getting in a Tahoe or Yukon? Largely, the badge, the slightly more elaborate interior trim, and the social signaling. The mechanical components underneath are substantially similar. Mechanics who work on both know this. Dealers who sell both absolutely know this. Buy the GMC Yukon Denali. You get the same full-size presence, premium interior materials, 3-row utility, and you'll spend tens of thousands of dollars less over the life of ownership while losing far less on resale. If the Denali still feels like too much, the base Tahoe is genuinely one of the better value propositions in the full-size SUV segment. And number 1, the one I told you about at the top, the Hyundai Palisade. Now, I need to be precise here because this isn't a blanket condemnation of the Palisade. At its base and mid-trims, the Palisade is actually a strong buy. Solid reliability scores, well-reviewed interior, capable family SUV. The problem is the calligraphy trim, and the problem is 2026 specifically. Hyundai raised the calligraphy price by 7% for 2026. You're now sitting at $52,000 to $55,000 for a trim level that puts you in direct competition with 3-row SUVs from brands with stronger resale trajectories. CarEdge flagged the Palisade calligraphy as one of the worst values in their 2026 SUV report, because at that price, you are paying near luxury money for a vehicle that will depreciate like a mainstream Korean brand, not a luxury nameplate. The Kia Telluride, which is built on the same platform, shares the same basic architecture, and was developed alongside the Palisade by the same parent company, has substantially better resale value. The Telluride holds its value better than almost any other 3-row SUV in America right now. They are cousins from the same factory family, and yet somehow Hyundai convinced buyers to pay more for the Palisade trim that actually loses more of their money. Buy the Kia Telluride SX instead. Same bones, better resale, lower entry price. Or step across to the Honda Pilot Elite. Proven long-term reliability, strong resale, 3 rows, and a powertrain that mechanics are comfortable with. Either one is a smarter allocation of $50,000 plus than a top-trim Palisade in 2026. Here's the thing none of these manufacturers want you sitting with when you walk into a dealership. A car is not just what it costs to buy. It's what it costs to fix, what it costs to fuel, and what it gives you back when you're done with it. Run those 3 numbers on any vehicle before you sign anything. The ones that win on all 3 are almost never the ones with the biggest marketing budgets. If this video saved you from a mistake or confirmed a decision you were already leaning toward, hit subscribe. Every video on this channel is built the same way. Data first, no fluff, no dealership spin. And if you're shopping for a used SUV right now and want to know which specific model years to target and which ones to avoid, I'll link the RAV4 deep dive right here. Same format, same approach. See you in the next one.